It's funny. There are very few cigars that I actively pursue or wait for, kind of like just anxiously think about at any given time during the year that, man, I really want to get this cigar when it comes out, or I've been thinking about smoking this cigar. I just haven't had a chance to, or haven't seen it, or, just one of those things that very few cigars that I do that too. Um, this is one of those cigars. That is the Opus X Lost City, part of the Forbidden X line. Opus X Lost City is something that I really am very happy when I see it at any cigar shop that I visit, that I frequent, or that I, regularly go in to buy my cigars at. Um, there's something particularly special about this cigar. And today, I'm going to tell you that story. I'm really excited. It may not be a story today about a lot of strategy and a lot of business, but it'll be a story today about a lot of soul, a lot of passion, a lot of love, and there will be some smoking. Thank you, everybody. This is Smoking Strategy. Let's get into it. Welcome to Smoking Strategy, where cigars meet hustle, heritage meets vision, and real conversations light up real business. I am Duncan Echevarria, your cigar consultant, brand builder, and author of the Cigar Business Blueprint. And in this podcast, we go beyond the smoke. Every week, I'm bringing you unfiltered insight into the cigar industry and the bold strategies that build legacies. From the rollers to the retailers, from the farms to the boardroom, we'll talk partnerships, product launches, brand identity, and what it really takes to thrive in a niche market that's built on passion. This isn't just talk, this is smoking strategy, and you're invited to the table. Follow now and light up your next move. So I remember the very first time I came across this cigar, it was, my God, let me see, it was 2010, somewhere thereabouts, 2010. I had a shop in the town of Salisbury, in a great little shop. Absolutely, I loved it. And it was the second iteration of what I had started. So it was in that time of, actually, yeah, 2010. So yeah, 15 years ago. So it was the second iteration of that time of when I went through so many, problems and issues trying to set up my own business, and thinking that I knew everything. But I knew that I wanted a very premium cigar, something that was unique, something that was one of a kind, something that truly spoke to, I guess, my passion, if you will. And I came across this. I can't even really exactly pinpoint. I know that at the time I was carrying from very early on Fuente. Literally from day one that I opened up my doors, I had the Fuente rep there, David Ludwig, Gorman David Ludwig, was an amazing guy, and to this day is one of the people that I think is the most savvy, knowledgeable individual in the industry. He has a passion for the company that he works for. He works for the Fuente family enterprises, and honestly, just when I opened up doors at my first location, even though I did not know what I was doing, he was the very first rep to ever visit me, and he never once tried to sell me anything. He never once. showed me anything except, love, respect, and camaraderie. He rolled up his sleeves and he said, do we need to, sweep? Do we need to clean up? Do we need to organize? What do we need to do here so I can help you and get you going? So I want to say that it was through him that I was introduced to Opus X, of course, but also I came across Opus X, The Lost City, which is a product that is owned by Keith Parks of Prometheus, and of course that's God of Fire. Beautiful, beautiful line of cigars, beautiful line of accessories, and I mean just amazing. But when I first saw this, and he told me what it was about, I said, "You got to be kidding me! You got to be kidding me!" So before I go any further, I'm gonna just do a quick cut. I'm gonna toast. I'm gonna light the cigar. I may be talking a little bit in that process. I got a ton of things to go into concerning the origin point of this cigar, the Opus X Lost City, and I'm smoking the Toro in a 6 and 3/4 by 48 ring gauge, which is an absolutely perfectly beautiful size. Absolutely beautiful. I am gonna do a V cut. I rarely, if ever, have any. You know what? As a matter of fact, in honor of my good friend Gorman Ludwig, I'm gonna do a straight cut. I'm gonna do a simple straight cut. And he's the guy that said to me, if you ever heard, you know, the cap land, you cut too much. So this one's for you, David. Look at that. Simple little cut. Lord bless it. I don't do a lot of like cold draw to get any pre-light flavors or whatever. I wonder if it landed. I didn't even. I see it. Don't anybody go anywhere. Did you guys see that shine? I know I'm losing hair everywhere, dude. It's like, it's not even. Stop laughing. Stop laughing. I'm gonna just I don't know if you guys can see that. There you go. That's why I love wearing this shirt. You see that right there? That itty bitty little that's all it is. That's all it is. I swear I see people chunks are flying. You don't need to. You don't need to. I was gonna do the V cut, but for a cigar like this, you're taking too much. Even the V cut, which again it's preferential, it's whatever you want to do. You're taking too much. Um, as I was saying, that cold draw, I don't do that. It's whatever to anybody. But it's this beautiful, clean flavor of light wood with a very interesting hint of a soft powdery bitter chocolate like that chocolate baking powder. That's what I get. And as you guys have known me through the years, I am not by any stretch a cigar reviewer, nor do I ever say I do great cigar reviews. I probably do absolutely horrible cigar reviews, but that's what I got. I got a light, clean wood and just this powdery, bittersweet cocoa that was just absolutely, yeah, let's do this. Mm. Just that soft tobacco aroma that there's no pungency, there's no overpowering like you know it's well aged, it's beautiful, it's got a gorgeous color. I mean, there is a bit of a shine to that. It's just it's flawless. It's a flawless cigar. I'll tell you what. So people keep talking and they say things, right? I would take the wrappers off I mean the rings off, not the wrappers. I would take the rings off, and I would literally put the ring of a Cuban cigar, on this. And I'm gonna be as bold as saying I would put a ring of a Bejique on this, or just a standard line, Cohiba, and on par, if not better. I said it, on par, if not better. Um, and also for the price point, I think that was in the low 30s compared to some of the Cubans out there, and I can get this, you know, not always, but I can get it. I just absolutely love this. And without further ado, let's see if we have any fire in here, right? Let's see. I'm gonna do a quick little toast, gentle. We're not welding. I've always said that. Too many people are doing all that kind of crazy, like, oh, dude, we're not welding. We're not. Just a light toast. Just go around, move it around a little bit, get it even. That's okay. Spend a little time. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with that. The cigars are okay with that. Look, you see that? You see that? Lovely. First few. Oh my God, the aroma. First few puffs. Let's go to town. Now you do see where the lighter is and where the tip of the cigar is. Again, nothing. No, it's watch. Ooh, child. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Two men enter, one man leave. Who remembers that one, right? Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. Tina Turner. Absolutely loved her character. Um, that's what it's all about. So recently, and this is why I wanted to do this one today and just basically dedicate it to just a conversation. This is not going to be again a review. Today, I'm kind of stepping aside a little bit from the whole business side of this, and we're not going to get into you know the the guide. We're not going to talk about any of that stuff. We're going to put that aside for a minute. Today, we're going to talk about a cigar that I absolutely love, that I'm passionate about, and the story behind it, and why it is that I was inspired to talk about this. Um, I was recently down at Casa de Monte Cristo. As of late, it's become like my go-to establishment. And plus, again, great service. I know everybody there. The selection is insane. I mean, it's absolutely stunning to walk in there because there's something for everyone. I loved it. As a matter of fact, actually, I arrived the other day when the new My Father blues were coming in, and that is the first foray of the Garcia family in Honduras to create a Honduran blend. So, if you guys are fans of My Father cigars, I am incredibly a diehard fan of them as well. So, we're gonna possibly grab a few of those, and they'll be smoked here. Again, no crazy reviews. It'll just be us smoking it, talking, and that's what it is. Um, Recently, I was at Casa Monte Cristo, as I was saying just a couple of minutes ago, and I saw them. I grabbed a bunch of the Lost City, and I overheard one of the guys who's a regular there, a great friend of mine, was talking to a gentleman in the humidor inside the main humidor area, and that's where they keep some of the nicer, higher end things. The Davidoffs are also partly in there, and the hard to find, the limited edition, the unique stuff was in there, and I saw him talking to this guy, and great explanation on everything. Um, and I went and I grabbed some Fuente Añejos that were there. and a Casa Cuba as well. And I told him, I go, hey Donnie, you should tell him about the añejos and the Casa Cubas. They're great cigars. You're not gonna go wrong with that. And the gentleman turned around and he goes, yeah, you like those? And I go, absolutely, I love them. And kind of went into the conversation of what it is that I liked about them. And then he saw what I was holding in my hand, and I had a few of these. And he goes, you like Opus? And I go, I absolutely love Opus X. It's a go-to for me when I can. You know, Even sometimes when they're available, I don't run to them. But I do get them. I will come by, grab two or three, and continue on my merry way. I said, but this particular one, the Lost City edition, is to me passion. Hey, my friends, are you as much of a coffee lover as I am? 'Cause let me tell you, you are. This one's for the road warriors, the patriots, the everyday heroes who keep this country moving. This is Road Dog Coffee. Let me tell you, we're not here for watered down swill. We're here to stage a full throttle rebellion against bland corporate blends that forgot what real coffee tastes like. At Road Dog, every roast is a rally cry, crafted with purpose, packed with bold flavor, and roasted for the long haul. Our beans are meticulously selected, fired with authenticity, and built to awaken your senses mile after mile. We're more than just a coffee company, we're a family, a movement, a tribute to hardworking Americans who still believe in tradition, grit, and great coffee. Join the rebellion, fuel your journey, and taste what it means to be Road Dog approved. Sign up now for exclusive offers, brewing tips, and bold blends that fuel the American dream. Road Dog Coffee, crafted for the long haul, built for the bold. And he said to me, you got to go into that. You got to unpack that now because look, you brought it in here, unpack this. And I said, okay, the way that I approached it is it's passion because it's a beautiful movie that was done by actor director Andy Garcia. I think if I'm looking at the notes here, um, it was literally the story that he wanted to portray about a Cuban family during the 1950s, the late 1950s, 1959, when Castro was taking over, and some of the struggles that they went through during the revolution, and so he collaborated, with Carlito Fuente to, make some of the scenery happen, very realistically, really amazing. Um, some people don't understand that, Andy Garcia, he's Cuban, and it was a 16-year labor of passion and love to come up with this story, to create this story, to bring this story to life, you know, and so I'm going to tell you a little bit about that, and I swear to God, I think I have like a cobweb just landed on my face. If it is the spirit of a good Cuban person, we welcome you. We give you smoke. Sometimes I do this, or like a cobweb just landed on me. I want to say it's a good spirit. It's a good spirit. Let's just say it like that. Um, I wrote a lot. I wrote a lot because I really wanted to tell you guys a little bit of, almost how I explained it to him. It's a story of a club owner, the main character, which is played by, Andy Garcia. His name is Fico. And Fico was almost your prototypical Cuban dandy, just is an amazing guy. Mm. And he was sort of torn. He was torn between the business of the club, right? The club life, the family, the politics, the mafia, which is I believe it's played by a character by Al Pacino. So again, and also Bill Murray was in it. I mean, it's just got a great cast of actors. So it's interesting. So he's sort of this guy trying to hold it all together for his family. You know, they have some amazing excerpts that they use from real life historical reels of when Fidel Castro was in La Sierra Maestra, and when he started doing horrible things there, and it talks a little bit about Batista, Fulgencio Batista, and how he left. It was very well put together. It was very well put together, but the heart of it all is his relationship with his family. His love of his family. Um, I'm not gonna tell you a ton of the movie. I want you guys, if you really get a chance to see this, this podcast, this video, and you're intrigued, go find the movie. I own a copy of it because, true story. Mm, there was a time 15 years ago or so where there was a few promos that were done with the Lost City cigar and it came with the movie as well. So I have an original Lost City cigar promo movie. As a matter of fact, I do have to find it, which I love it, but it's a DVD. I don't have a DVD player anymore, but anyways, it's great memorabilia. But to go back to it, so the family also had a wonderful uncle that was he was a farm owner, tobacco farm owner, and the uncle was it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because his nephew, who's now part of Castro's regime, I think it's Ricardo, yeah, Fico's brother Ricardo. He became a high-ranking official with the Castro regime. I'm looking at my notes here. Visits his uncle at the family farms, to tell him that Fidel has now confiscated his tobacco farm. His uncle, literally, his heart breaks. He has a heart attack. Not gonna go any more into that. Ricardo's actions afterwards are just like, oh my god, it's heartbreaking. Um, the separation of the family. His father had been a professor at the University of Havana. Believing that it would all blow over. You know, what happens to all the brothers in the family? I mean, it is just something that, to me, my mother told me stories about those days, and my father, may he rest his soul, told me stories also about those days, but I never understood them. I could not put myself in that time frame, in that period. And it's funny, my partner said something to me that was so wise, so powerful, and so incredibly insightful. He said, time stopped in Cuba around that time frame. And to this day, that's why Cuba looks the way that it looks like. The cars that are there, the old architecture. Um, it's as if the old Cuba died and gave birth to a completely new one. And that's why when you look at this movie, The Lost City, it speaks about something that is completely lost now, something that is gone, something that may not come back, may never come back, but something new has arisen. It's really a beautiful movie. It's really beautifully done. And you're wondering, well, when does the tobacco thing come into play? Well, let me scroll up here. There were scenes of course, of the tobacco farms where Uncle, Donoso, would be there. but they needed to show that in in full growth, or at least 3 4 feet tall, the tobacco, so it would be believable, like for real. Mm. And Andy wanted to showcase that. Andy Garcia wanted to showcase that, and he wanted to be as realistic as possible to like what a Cuban tobacco farm, really is. And it was in that time frame that he was introduced, when he was looking and scouting for a location, to Calito Fuente. And Andy told him, I'm looking to do this. What's the possibility of maybe like shooting some sequences at his farms in the Dominican Republic? He said, we share commonalities. We have culture that binds us, and Carlito immediately was totally all in. He was supportive. So originally, this some of these things that happened with the uncle, we're gonna just have some quick snapshots of the tobacco farm, maybe, but it was mostly going to happen inside of an office environment, and like I said, the tobacco farm was going to be just some quick shots to establish that, hey, we're in the farm. So in 2004, when this was all happening, and in Andy was just getting footage, he literally said to Carlito, it's a shame, you know with all this tobacco that now you've grown, um, you know, what would happen, with this tobacco in the foreseeable future, you know? So he says, well, it's gonna be an off season. They had come in and he had done all the shooting that he wanted to get, but this was mostly for just backup shots, or just like to create an atmosphere. There was going to be a time in which he needed to, just come in and do more filming. And the wrap up was going to happen of, basically, you plant early in the year, and you la cosecha, you harvest, you know, late spring or so. So it's kind of crazy. Mm. So here's the thing. It was weird. I had to literally make sure that I wrote this down so you guys understand this. In the Caribbean, in the Caribbean basin, basically, and particularly in the area of Cibao, which is in the Dominican Republic, where tobacco is mostly grown, it's normally, as I said, planted early in the year, and the harvest happens in the spring, so within 3 months. Most of the footage was done in that time or even earlier, for just what were going to be some still shots, or just some, just backup shots, or footage that could be, just to create the illusion. But then Carlito says, look, tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to separate, you know a few acres. I'm looking at it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to plant some tobacco right after the harvest, basically, so that when eventually the shooting began in the real, in area, that they had to like bring in the entire crews in, I think it was July or June. June. Looking at the notes again, it would be at least 3 to 4 feet grow, and it would blend in with a lot of what had already been done as backup, filmography, or just still shots, or just backup photography. And Andy loved it. He was like, wow, that's amazing that you would accommodate us, because a movie doesn't take a month to film. This thing, just to get everything in play, was 16 years in the making. And then of course production and traveling and going to different locations, so you got to understand this was going to be done in a time in which tobacco is not normally planted and harvested in that time frame. So he did that. Um, in it was amazing because it gives you a true sensation of what it is when you see the movie. They're walking around, and it's just really uh, really beautiful. Mm. And it gives the illusion of a family that had, for decades established themselves in Cuba as, tobacco farmers. And like I said, you normally plant early, very early in the year, and you harvest in the spring. So the summer crop literally was going to be just a backdrop setting. And then it's funny because there was another conversation. Andy Garcia, you know, told Carlito, what are you going to do now with this tobacco? And Carlito said, well, if the tobacco is good, you know, we're going to use it. Um, and again, there was a bit of I don't know because it was done in a off season. Andy said, if you know if it was going to be good to use the logo from the Lost City and that the project would benefit the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, which provides, education and health services to communities in the Dominican Republic. So it was a joint collaboration that, Andy was giving the logo of the movie to be attached to the cigar, but specifically for, money from the sale of that to go to the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, which is an amazing organization that was created between the Fuente family and the Newman family, and they have done tremendous amounts of great work. So, as you guys know, even if you harvest, tobacco, there's still years before you know what's going to happen. So, after about roughly 5 years of aging, the tobacco that have been grown in the summer turned out to be pretty amazing. The leaf had some incredible complexity and some great flavors um, that were very similar to the original Opus X wrapper, but unique you know characters because of the different seasons that have been grown in. you know Dude, I'm telling you, this cigar is like, it's insane. So this became something completely different. It was part of the Opus X family, but it became now a standalone brand within there. So it's Opus X The Lost City, as an homage to that great movie, that great collaboration. Um and it just truly is amazing. And this became part of the Lost City Scholarship Fund, which is directed by Andy Garcia and the Chateau Fuente family estate. And it was established by the Prometheus, which is owned by Keith Parks. To commemorate the 10th anniversary, of the movie at the time, that's when that was created. So, just unique, unique. A very different cigar. I know I haven't made the pause for my normal partners that I advertise here as well. You guys obviously don't see my Frida Kahlo mug with coffee, but I'm about half an hour into it. I've I've tried to do right by the notes that I have on the screen here. Um, thank God, no technical difficulties. But it's something far more than just writing copious notes and talking you know about all the different people that came together into this. So Prometheus, and God of Fire, of course, which is it's Keith Parks, the Cigar Family Charitable Foundation, Andy Garcia, the Newman family. There's a lot that goes into this particular cigar sub brand within Opus X, and I go back to it. It is passion. It's love. Uh, My friends, did you know that since 1492 the Dominican Republic has been shaped by tobacco? But long before the Spaniards arrived, the Taino people were already using tobacco in ceremony, culture, and celebration. Today, in the heart of the Valle del Cibao, we carry that legacy forward also. Welcome to GTO Dominican Cigars, crafted by hand at Tabacalera GTO Dominicana using first generation Cuban seed tobacco grown in the richest soil in the Caribbean. Every cigar is aged to perfection, blended by the passion of one man, Dr. Oscar Rodriguez, a master of taste and tradition. From smooth, elegant smokes to full bodied powerhouses like the Painkiller, GTO is boutique, it's bold, and it's never rushed. Come discover the soul of the Dominican leaf. One cigar at a time. Remember, those who know smoke GTO. Thank you. Take care and keep it smoky. It is me dropping my ash. Lord bless it. Listen, I'm actually glad it happened. In none of the other ones have I dropped the ash, and I was like, wow, that's it's kind of like, hmm. I think dropping the ash on a white guayabera, it doesn't get any luckier than that. So, it was about a good 2 inch ash, so easy breezy, Japanesey. Uh, Passion, and I kind of didn't go into so much when I was talking in Casa Monte Cristo to that gentleman and my buddy Donnie there. But I did go into it a little bit, tell him, hey, it's wrapped around a beautiful story. It's wrapped around a great movie. It taught me so much about a time period that my mother and my father lived through, and I didn't understand it. And it's something that is lost to me. It's lost to generations of Cubans that never understood that, but yet we somehow, in a weird sort of way, we carry it inside of us. Um, I get emotional thinking about my homeland. I have family there. I have an older sister that lives there. I think I take puffing breaks you know, to strengthen up a little bit, right? Um, my partner has a beautiful grandmother that is there as well. There are still some members of my father and my mother's, well, not my mother's family, my dad's side of the family that are still there, removed, no contact with them in decades. But there's something about Cuba. There's just something about Cuba. There's a love affair with it, from whether it's the people, the cigars, the music, the romanticism of what it once was, what it still sort of is, but also what it could be. And I love my country. I left it when I was 8 years old. My story is, I've said it a million and one times in many interviews. My story is that of a kid who I remember running around tobacco fields. Um, I remember living in my mother's town of Artemisa. I remember childhood friendships. I remember many things. I remember being out in the fields with my father, and he was on his tractor, and we would travel, I remember my mother and my father working for the government in one of their big plantations, at the time harvesting not tobacco, but plantains, banana plants, plantains. And my mother worked in the cafeteria, the big communal mess hall cafeteria, while my father worked out, in the fields. Um, I remember those things. I remember making my own wooden toys. I make my own sword and play Zorro, whatever, uh, making a bow and arrow, playing out by myself in the fields. Um, I remember so much, but I wish I remember more. I've lost a lot. Sometimes, I remain quiet when I talk to my mother, which for a Cuban, that's really hard to do. And I listen to her stories from even a time further back than mine, a time of a Cuba that had no clue of who Fidel Castro was. Um, I remember the stories that my father would tell me, growing up in the farm, and when he was a young man, that he wanted to join the military because he loved it. He was sort of the middle child in a large family, and he had lost his mother when he was 9 years old, and he wasn't old enough to go work in the fields like what he wanted, but he was old enough to take care of the younger siblings, and he told me stories like that, about how you lived, in those worlds, those environments. I remember it literally that it would take us hours to travel from my mom's hometown, you know. Well, it didn't take hours. It was, it still took a long time to travel to the capital, to Havana, you know, to be able to make a line at this, telecommunications center, and then, work our way to a booth and hope that, the operator would connect you to speak for 5 minutes on a really horrible, line to my grandmother and my uncle and some family members that were my mom's side of the family that were here in the United States. I remember those things, and today in the age of you know computers and in this, everything that we do, I lived that. I lived through the telegraph. Receiving a telegraph was news of something bad happening. Like, oh my God, somebody died or there was an accident. Who knows? Um, Traveling a lot of places in with my mom and my dad in the most rustic of ways. And as a child, I part of that. I've lost a lot, you know, time, of course, but I still hold a lot in here. Something about Cuba. I don't know what it is. Something about my homeland. I am American. I am a citizen of the United States. I served in the army here, loved everything I have done in this country, and I respect the flag and I respect everything that this country stands for. You know, when people ask me without getting, political or whatnot, where are you? I said, well, you know what? I believe in the great republic that we once were. I believe in the great republic that we can yet be again. I respect the office. Always have, always will. Whatever viewpoints I have with whoever sits in the office, those are my viewpoints. Those are my opinions. And I won't get into them. And It is what it is. Those who know me know my political views, but I like to be educated. I like to read. I like to look at everything that I can to make the best choices. And if I make the wrong choice, it's okay. That's why this country is so great. We can go back in a few years and vote again. Try to rectify that mistake, whatever it is. Try to make our voices heard. There is so much turmoil out there in the world today. Enormous, enormous. Every morning, mm, if you had doubts, I didn't. It's a Fuente. uh, you know, every morning I sit with my cup of coffee, I have breakfast, and that's at my regular day job. And I peruse the headlines. I took a page right out of Warren Buffett's kind of like morning um, habits, if you will. He would get 6 or 7 different periodicals and just peruse the headlines to get a grasp of what's happening, and then dive into whatever captured him. So I do the same thing, and I look through all the headlines. You know, I don't choose any one particular news agency. I look through about 4 or 5 of them. I look for the commonalities, and then I do my own interpretation. I do more research until I get an answer on the news that I feel confident with. You know, so I get it. We got so much going on in the world. Israel and Gaza, Ukraine and Russia, um, you know, Iran also, Cuba. Look at all that's going on down there. It's horrible. Um, but here in our homeland now, in America, the only thing I could ask for, because I'm not gonna go deep into this, the only thing I could ask for is let's remember passion. And let's remember, most importantly, compassion. Let's be compassionate to each other. Let's remember that we are Americans. You're not any one particular party. You are Americans. You are here. Let's be compassionate to each other. Let's let's be caring. Let's be loving. Let's be understanding. I didn't start out this video to say these things, but sometimes we have to say these things. I don't care what political view you have. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care who you like in any political role. I don't care. I care about you. I care about whether it's just one person who watches this, and I care about if it's a few hundred. I care. You know, Sometimes we find ourselves in environments and in situations and you say, I don't care. I just don't care. I understand that. I get it. I mean, I get it. But there has to be a point, there has to be a moment that we have to say, I care. I am compassionate. I do understand. And I feel, because I believe that this country is a great republic, and it can be. Hey, crazy thing here. Who knows? In 5 years, Artificial super intelligence, baby. Right? Right. Who knows? Who knows? I can tell you something that, on a, we're gonna just crazy tangent right now. Crazy tangent. I can tell you that right now, crazy tangent. Remember, I said that the mothership appears in the skies, right? Global zombie apocalypse, vampire apocalypse. Uh, COVID again, but crazy. It seems as if the only time we come together as a global entity is in moments of tremendous stress and need and suffering. And I'm like, good Lord, you know, is that the only time that we're able to set aside our differences and be able to come together and say, we got each other's back because whatever's out there is far stronger, greater, more powerful, and we cannot overcome it by ourselves. So let's unite. Let's come together. Again, I read too much sci-fi, I think. I'm just saying that. But think about that for a second. Every stupid movie we've ever seen, every book that's ever been published that's, world-ending catastrophe, whatever. That's the only time we come together. It really that's the only time we're gonna come together. Come on, people. Come on. That's crazy. That's cray cray, you know? And again, who am I? Look, I'm just a guy wearing a white guayabera, smoking a $33 cigar, talking. Look at all that we've talked about today. I read off on about 3 pages of notes on my computer about what happened with this background story for this cigar. Um, I haven't even talked about my other guys, but I'm gonna throw them in there. You'll see them. They're there. I want to talk about Spencer Squire and his amazing Road Dog Coffee Company. I'm going to talk about my dear friend Oscar Rodriguez and GTO Cigars. It'll be in there. You'll see it. You know, There'll probably be like well before this point. So by the time you get to this point, you probably would have already seen them. And of course, Steve Mann, Stogie Hub, an amazing guy. Just a Hello, my friends. Let me tell you about a great place where fine cigars meet elite craftsmanship. Now, this is StogieHub.com. Founded by entrepreneur and good friend of mine, Stephen Mann, Stogie Hub was built to bring unity to a fragmented market, connecting cigar lovers with premium accessories in one elegant space. It's secure, it's seamless, and it's designed for those who know the difference between a hobby and a lifestyle. But this is more than a marketplace, it's a community, a place to trade, learn, and share stories through the Burn and Learn podcast hosted by Stephen Mann. And also, it's a place where you can come 24/7 for tremendous customer support, trusted reviews. Definitely a promise also to evolve with the industry and stay on the cutting edge of the needs of the clients. Stogie Hub isn't just keeping up, they're setting up a brand new standard. Stogie Hub, remember, where every puff is perfection. Stay smoky, my friends. Guy, just a great, great human guy. I think he's awesome. And look at that right there, four dudes, four dudes just coming together, and sometimes, just completely different viewpoints coming together. You know, in a lot of places that I've been to, I always hear, the cigar shops. Oh, cigars are the great, equalizer. Cigars are the great commonality. Hypocrisy. Hypocrisy. I call BS. I absolutely do. Cigars are not equalizers. We are the great equalizers. We are the great commonality. We are the ones that choose to sit and talk to a perfect stranger and possibly strike up an incredible conversation, you know. And in that moment, we don't know if he's, Joe the plumber or, CEO Jack, you know. We don't know. We're just two dudes there and we're having a great combo. Yeah, we're smoking the same cigar. I get that. Look, I get that. But it is we who are the commonality. I have never in my life, nor will I ever, support a cigar because of, well, no, supporting a particular group of people or that. No, I support everyone because I care. I'm not saying that whatever you do to support a particular cigar brand is wrong. No, no, rock and roll, baby. Have at it. And for anybody to keep saying cigars are the equalizers, they're the great commonality, they bring us together. No, 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 no. I'll tell you what brings us together. That environment that you're in brings us together. That vision of that owner brings us together. What he created brings us together. What he believed in brings us together. Strangers sitting around, starting a conversation, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, they are the local cigar group. They just don't understand that cigars was the end result. It just happened. But that friendship, that bond, that networking, that conversation, that was the equality. That was the commonality. The cigar was just a happy tool, you know. It was there. We loved it. And that whole group may not even smoke the same things when they get together. They're just smoking a cigar. I know. I know. I know. I'm a bit of a black sheep, but the reality is the reality. You know, I'm having a fantastic time with you guys. I know I've talked a bunch of stuff. I'm an idiot. Don't pay me no mind. But if you get a chance to see this one and you're still here at this time, you did that. You did that. Not me. This did not do it. As much as I love this did not do it. You did. I'm very proud of you because maybe, just maybe, you're that guy who's gonna go out there and say, you know what? I I want to know a little bit more as to maybe why you believe what you believe. Maybe I want to learn a little bit more as to why maybe you voted the way you voted. Just educate me. Look, I don't have to vote the same way you do. I don't have to think the same way you do. But but I want to find out. I want to know. I want to have a conversation with you, and I'm okay with that. I open up the mic to you guys. Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you all. And this has been Smoke and Strategy. The mic is yours.